What's going on, guys? It's your boy Scrubby here, back again with another video. Today I've got a story time for y'all that has a lot of family betrayal, a crazy aunt bugging her nephew's car, and more. So without further ado, let's go.
Ain't no more proving, dog. What the movie gotta do with yo?
Alright, so this story takes place because of the person who sent this in to me's spoiled cousin and his mother. You know, basically what ended up happening is the person who sent this to me got their driver's license, got a car, and immediately their aunt volunteered them to drive his cousin to school. Obviously, you know, it's not very nice to just, like, volunteer somebody for a job that they haven't agreed to, especially when you're not even that person's parent. But, you know, the person who sent this to me's mom was in a super weird position where, like, she was like, well, maybe you could please help out your cousin. So he was stuck in this situation where he had to take his cousin to school. You know, his aunt had demanded that he pick up his cousin from his aunt's house every morning, and then drive him to school. And when he had kind of been like, I don't want to do that, you know, they had given him the whole family helps family, you need to do it. And he's like, listen, if you guys would have nicely asked, I would have said yes. I'm more irritated at the fact that I just got, like, volunteered for this and I didn't want to. And the reason it was so annoying also was the fact that, like, his aunt and his cousin lived further than the school was from his house. Every morning, he literally had to drive past the school, go to his aunt's house, pick up his cousin, and then drive back to school. And the entire time, his cousin was just whining about how his car sucked and it was cold, just whining the entire time. And his aunt just had refused to help pay for gas, which when somebody has to drive like double the distance to pick up your kid is probably a nice thing to do. And the entire situation was just extremely annoying because him and his cousin would just kind of fight on the way to school every day. And, you know, he wasn't getting paid for the gas. He had to wake up earlier to get to his cousin's house and then get to school. All of these things together just ended up pushing him over the edge. And what was really annoying about it, too, is the fact that, like, his cousin was old enough to drive, he just, like, didn't feel like it. So it wasn't a situation where he's picking up his younger cousin who, you know, just couldn't go to school. His cousin had the option to A, go get his license, or B, ride the bus. He just didn't want to do either. But, you know, obviously his patience was starting to run thin. And all of it culminated on, you know, this particular event that this story time is about, where he gets to his aunt's house, and obviously he had woken up early, gotten over here, and when he gets there, he's extremely annoyed because his cousin wasn't ready. And that's just sucky, bro. Like, if somebody's gonna come out of their way, drive double the distance to get you to school, the least you could do is be ready on time and not make them sit in the driveway. But on top of that, his cousin wasn't, like, trying to rush or anything. In fact, he proceeded to take his time and was so late getting in the car that school had already started. And when he gets in the car, he wasn't, like, apologetic or, you know, I'm so sorry I slept in. No, he starts to get mad at his cousin for rushing him. And the person who sent this to me, the subscriber, literally can't believe that they're getting blamed for this dude being so late school started. And obviously they start to argue about it because, you know, how could you not start to argue with somebody being like, I'm 30 minutes late and it's your fault for rushing me? And the entire point that the subscriber's trying to make during this argument is like, look, I'm going out of my way to give you a free ride to school so you don't have to ride the bus or drive. Just be on time. That's the least you could do. And apparently him trying to say that was just so offensive to the cousin that at the next stoplight after he said that, his cousin just gets out of the car and starts running down a side street. Keep in mind, you know, they're on their way to school. They're already late. They're the same age, and all he said was, hey, please don't waste my time. Just be ready when I come to get you so we don't be late for school. And his response is to just run out of the car. Obviously, at that point, he's watching his cousin run down the side street, and he has two options in his head. He can either chase down his cousin and be even later to school, you know, probably get in trouble, explain it to his parents, try to convince his cousin to get back in the car, which isn't a guarantee, or just keep driving to school and let his cousin deal with it. And at that point, they were under a mile from the school, so he just figures his cousin will be able to walk there in like 10 minutes and it's not his problem. So he just goes to school. Which, listen, I understand some people might think is the wrong call, but like imagine somebody just sucking that much and then they get out of the car. You're like, all right, bro, that's your problem. You figure out how to get to school. And he does get to school, the subscriber. He didn't know about his cousin. And when he's at school, his phone starts to blow up with calls from his aunt. And obviously he's like, uh-oh, I'm guessing my cousin, told her some story about how he ran out of the car. And so he asked the teacher to go into the hallway. The teacher says yes, and he steps out there and answers the phone call. And as soon as he presses answer, like before he can even say hello, the screaming starts. And it's just, you abandoned my baby. What's wrong with you? You left my baby in the middle of town. Do you realize how dangerous that is? And obviously he's like, dude, your baby, air quotes, is literally the same age as me. He can drive a car. It's not like he's a helpless child. And he got out of the car less than a mile from school. So he starts trying to explain it to his aunt, and his aunt's having none of it. And she starts trying to accuse this dude of like purposely trying to have gotten his cousin kidnapped. Do you have any idea what stranger could have taken your cousin? And, he's like, look, okay, let's not be dramatic here. I dropped him off 2 streets away from school. And on top of that, like, we're not little kids. And even beyond that, if somebody did kidnap my cousin, they'd probably bring him back because nobody wants to deal with that. And, he, like, once again says to his aunt, I don't understand what the big deal is. If he couldn't walk less than a mile to school, I just don't understand how he didn't get to school. How was he lost? And his aunt starts to says that like he had gotten lost walking to school and started to walk the other direction back towards home. And listen, I could understand getting lost maybe, but if you start walking the wrong direction in this scenario, like you just have to be dumb. Because let me get this straight, bro. You were in the car driving towards school. You got out of the car, and instead of walking the direction you were driving towards school, you started walking the opposite direction of your destination. Like, I just don't understand how that happens unless this guy's purposely trying to make it look like he got lost to get his cousin in trouble. Anyways, the subscriber and his aunt are going back and forth, and she's like, I'm gonna make you pay for this, just you wait until I get to talk to your parents. You're gonna regret making my baby get lost, da-da-da-da-da. You're so ungrateful that I'm your aunt. You never have to drive my son again. Which I think in her mind was like a super deep own, like, oh, you don't have to drive extra distance every morning and come pick up my bratty kid who just complains the entire time and like literally runs out of the car for no reason. And obviously at that point, the subscriber's like, all right, I mean, that's fine. Like, okay, actually, that's legit. That's perfectly okay with me. I hated driving him anyways. Sweet. And if you could reimburse me for all the gas money, I'd appreciate it. And then he just hung up. At that point, he's done. He has to go back to school. It's just not his problem anymore. And obviously, like, he assumed he was going to have to hear about it later, so he just didn't want to worry about it right now, because obviously it's his aunt. Like, she's going to call his mom, she's going to call his dad, something's going to happen. So he just goes about the rest of his school day pretty chill, trying to act normal, and after school, he goes into the parking lot to get into his car, and when he goes out to his car, he's really surprised because his aunt and his cousin are standing there, and he's like, hi, and his aunt instantly starts to just act really suspicious, and she's like, oh, hi, I'm not mad about earlier. Will you drive your cousin home just one last time, for old time's sake? He just, your friendship means so much to him. And the subscriber's like, I don't know why you can't do it. You're literally here. You told me I wouldn't do it anymore because I'm like the worst and so ungrateful and I don't really want to. And his aunt's just super insistent. Like, no, you need to. Your mom said that you have to take your cousin to my house, so you just have to do it, And she starts to yell a little bit. And everybody in the parking lot, because school just got out, is starting to look and pay attention. And he just doesn't want to have the embarrassment of his aunt freaking out in the school on his reputation forever. He doesn't want to start to be known as the guy with the crazy aunt. So he's like, oh my God, like, obviously I don't want to take my cousin home, but at the same time, if I don't, she's gonna freak. So whatever, I'll just take him home. It'll be really quick. I'll drop him off. It'll be fine. So he agrees to take his cousin home for his aunt, and they go to get in the car. And for some reason, he feels like something's off in his car, but he just can't put his finger on it. He's looking around, and he's like, I don't know, something just felt weird. And as soon as they get in the car, his cousin starts to get really weird as well, and starts asking him questions, like very loudly, very clearly, not in a way that he normally would ask questions questions like he's trying to set him up, you know? For example, do you think that my mom is an evil person that you strongly dislike? You know, just saying it that way, super bizarre. Like, nobody talks like that. You would be like, hey, do you think my mom sucks? You know, you wouldn't be like, do you strongly dislike the amoeba? Anyways, obviously the subscriber can tell that something's weird's going on, so he just says no. He keeps asking questions and he's just kind of ignoring him, but he's trying to pick up on like what his cousin's, you know, body movements are, what might be happening. And he starts to realize that every time he asks a super weird question, he keeps glancing at the glove box. And so, you know, he's like, all right, I might seem crazy, but I feel like there's something in the glove box. So he goes at the next red light. Obviously, he wouldn't do this while he's driving, to go look in the glove box. And the second he goes to open it, his cousin starts to freak out, dude, hitting his hand away, trying to keep it closed. And he's like, don't look in there. Don't look in there. You don't need to look in the glove box. Stop. Don't look there. Which, you know, may I just say, if you're trying to not look suspicious and hide something from somebody, might be the absolute worst way to go about it. Like freaking out, smacking their hand away, don't look there. Now, basically, like, you have to look. You have no option. And the subscriber obviously is certain that he needs to check the glove box now. So he kind of fights with his cousin at this red light, and his cousin gives up, and he gets the glove box open. And his cousin's like, I'm sorry, you know, I had nothing to do with this. And he's obviously a little bit confused, and that's when he looks in the glove box and realizes what is actually sitting right there. His aunt, in her infinite psycho behavior, had apparently decided to like put a recording device there, but not just any recording device from like this century, no. Inside of the glove box is a tape recorder recording. Somehow his aunt and his cousin had like broken into his car while he was in school, put a tape recorder in the glove box, and then concocted this entire plan that he had to drive his cousin home so his cousin could bait him into talking crap about his aunt. And so somehow they would have footage of him talking crap about his aunt, which to me doesn't really make sense. Like, even if he doesn't like his aunt, who cares? Are you gonna blackmail him for saying that he doesn't like his aunt? Like, is that illegal, dude? I didn't realize that, like, that's such a juicy tidbit of information. If somebody was like, man, I hate my uncle because, you know, he sucks and just screams at my mom, I wouldn't be like, wow, I'm gonna blackmail you with that. I'd be like, yeah, your uncle sounds like he sucks. But whatever, you know, the subscriber starts to freak out and he's like, your mom bugged the car? Are you kidding me? Like, she actually bugged the car? And the cousin's like, I didn't, it wasn't my idea, I'm sorry. And he's kind of just stuttering, not knowing what to say back because he's just in shock that they got caught. And obviously, here at the Scrubs channel, you know, we are anti-littering. We don't like litter. But that being said, the subscriber grabs this tape recorder and just throws it out of his open window, you know, and I can't necessarily say that I blame him. Listen, like I said, we all agree that littering is not good. Littering is bad. You shouldn't be tossing trash out your window in your car. But I also am not really sure what your reaction would be to finding like a tape recorder in your car that your family had put there and then had your cousin start trying to set you up so they could have like recordings of you talking trash after you had spent all your time driving him for free and waking up early every single morning and arguing with him the entire time, and all this transpired because he's the same age as you and he freaked out and ran out of your car at a red light. I don't know, man. You might throw a tape recorder out of your window too. You know, I'm not trying to judge. No, obviously I'm not pro littering, but maybe in the situation I would. At that point, he starts to hear honking behind him though, and he looks in the rear view mirror and he realizes it's his aunt's car, and his aunt is behind him signaling at him to pull over, even to the point where she was flashing her phone flashlight in the windshield over and over, trying to make like a little makeshift siren or something. And at that point, he's ready to argue with his aunt. You know, him and his cousin don't get along, but obviously he didn't think it was his idea to put a tape recorder in the glove box because that's something that only somebody born like last century would have thought of. Anyways, he pulls over into this empty parking lot, so does his aunt, and his aunt gets out of the car mad at him somehow. You know, you think maybe you'd be a little bit apologetic after somebody finds your tape recorder in their glove box, but instead his aunt is like, wow, how dare you? You have any idea how expensive a tape recorder is to operate in the year 2021, 2022? I don't know exactly when this all went down. She literally starts screaming that, like, you threw my tape recorder out of the car. What's wrong with you? You're going to be paying for that. You will be repairing my tape recorder when I go back and get it off the road. And, you know, she's just going on and on about how he's going to be paying damages for this tape recorder. And at that point, he's done and he cuts off his aunt. And he's like, listen. I'm not paying for your tape recorder, okay? You're a weirdo. You literally bugged your nephew's car and then got your son to get in your nephew's car that you bugged to try to get me to talk trash about you so you would have a recording of me talking crap about you. And his aunt is like, yeah, I don't understand what's wrong with that. And he's like, are you crazy? You know, you don't understand that that's a little bit too far and makes absolutely no sense. Your son jumped out of my car earlier today, so you're gonna spy on me and set me up to talk crap about you. Why? Like, in what planet does that make any sense? You're nuts. And his aunt is just kind of looking at him blankly, and then she decides in her infinite wisdom to do the good old-fashioned double down, don't admit you're wrong. Alright guys, I'm going to interrupt the video for just 1 second. I've been posting all my story times shortly after they come out over on this show I have on Spotify. I'm going to put the link to that at the top of the description. If you guys want to check that out, you can listen to the stories offline without gameplay, whatever it is. They're still posted here first, so you know, make sure to check in here more often, but it's an option for y'all, like I said, top of the description. Like I said, his aunt starts to double down and she's like, yeah, I did bug your car because I know that you're plotting against me and my son to make us look crazy and unhinged. And he's like, what? I'm plotting against you guys to make you look unhinged, so you bugged my car. I don't have to make you look unhinged, you just are. And his aunt is like, yeah, sure, that's exactly what an enemy would be doing. And he's like, how am I an enemy? I've been driving to your house every single morning to pick up your kid. If I was an enemy, why would I do that? And she starts to go off about how, like, everyone in this town is secretly against them, you know, and she just needs to be on the lookout, and she didn't think that her nephew would be in the group of people that are turning on her. And he cuts her off and he's like, look, I don't know what's going on or what you're talking about, but I don't want any of it. You can take your kid home and take him to school from then on, you know. I'm done. I don't want to hear anymore. I'm not a part of some secret group that's out to get you. That's just actually crazy. And he gets back in his car to leave, and as he's leaving and he hears his aunt yelling about how, like, you know, she's gonna see him in the morning when he takes his cousin to school, and he can't actually believe what he's hearing. Like, did his aunt actually think that he was gonna be pulling up tomorrow to take his cousin to school even after all of this? Obviously not, but whatever. She says it again. She's like, I'll see you tomorrow morning. And so he sticks his head back out the window and he's like, are you serious right now? And his aunt confirms, yeah. And he's like, look, as far as I'm concerned, my tenure as my cousin's chauffeur in the morning is over, okay? And so is my relationship as your nephew. You know, he looks at his cousin. We used to get along, dude. I don't know what's going on. I'm not a part of some secret plot to destroy you, though. But until then, we're not cousins either. Goodbye. And he just leaves. And as soon as he gets out of the parking lot, he feels like this big weight off his chest because he's like, oh, awesome. I don't have to go, like, deal with that every morning. But as soon as that, like, weight gets off of his chest, he starts to think about the fact that he needs to call his parents right now. So that way he can tell them everything that happened. Because if he didn't, he knew his aunt would be, like, calling his mom and being like, your son tried to crash into my car in a road rage incident. So whatever, he calls his mom and explains everything, you know. And his mom understands. It's her sister, so she's probably dealt with some of this stuff before. So she's like, okay, I get you. I know she can be like that sometimes. And so they get off the phone. At that point, he's just driving home. And when he comes home, his mom's on the phone with his aunt. And she's like arguing with her, saying, no, if you're going to be like bugging my kid's car and following them around, then like you can take your kid to school. My kid's not your servant. You know, he doesn't have to like do whatever you tell him to, especially if you're not going to respect him. Which is good to hear, the parents having his back. I mean, honestly, dude, if you have the free time to be following around your nephew, driving your kid around, why can't you just drive your kid? Like, honestly. It is a good thing, though, that his parents had his back because his aunt, to, like, get revenge, I guess, started to go around to the rest of the family and say that her nephew randomly attacked her for no reason. And it just caused a bunch of family drama. I mean, obviously, 90% of the family was like, yeah, you're nuts to the lady. But the 10% of the family was like, why
would you attack your innocent aunt for no reason?
Either way, you know, him and his parents stayed strong and he didn't have to drive his crappy cousin to school for the rest of the year, which is probably the biggest W of all this. I still don't understand why it made sense to anyone in the beginning of this to have him drive past his school to his aunt's house and then back to the school. You know, especially if the cousin could have just gotten his license and driven himself. It's not like he needed a chauffeur to be taking him everywhere. And you know what's funny about all of this is, like, after all this drama, his cousin still needed to get to school, right? So he ended up getting his license. His parents bought him a car, a nicer car than the one that, you know, he had, and then sent him a bunch of pictures and made fun of him for not having a nice car. But then he literally ended up getting in a crash on the first day of driving it. He wasn't hurt, you know, he was perfectly okay. But the car was totaled, and like now he hasn't driven again, and his parents have to just keep paying the monthly payment on this car that they don't have anymore. So maybe him driving wasn't the best idea, but that's also why you shouldn't be like flexing on the dude that was driving you out of the kindness of his heart. Regardless, you know, I guess some people's aunts out there are really crazy enough to be bugging a car and thinking that you're a part of some plot to, like, go against them, I guess. My recommendation, just don't bug people's cars. Kind of weird unless you're James Bond or working for the FBI, you know? At that point, it's your job. But hey, if you're not working for the government, kind of weird. Maybe the town doesn't like you because you, like, just try to hide recording devices in their cars, you know? Oh, the town's against me. Maybe if you stop trying to spy on them, they would think that you were a little bit more normal, you know? Isn't my mom the worst? I guess sometimes, yeah. Like his mom jumps out of the bushes. I knew that you didn't like me. See, Tony, everyone's a hater. Regardless, if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate you taking a second to press the like button. Let me know in the comment section down below what you thought. And of course, subscribe if you're new and turn on those notifications. Seriously, if you want to help me out, go ahead and comment the word bug down below. I'm just trying to see if comments push the video into recommended, so if you could comment bug, I would appreciate it. Other than that, a link to the intro song can be found down below. It's by my friend Pancho. I'll put a link to listen and download it. A link to my podcast, The Scuffed Cast, also down there. Or you can use code SCRUBBY at the G Fuel checkout to get a discount on G Fuel. Help me out at the same time. One more time, top of the description is a link to the Spotify show that I've got. Be sure to go check it out. And the last link that you'll find down there in the description is a link to the merch store with a hoodie as cool as the one on your screen. I mean, my goodness, have you ever seen anything cooler? On that note, though, guys, don't get anyone pregnant. If you do, make sure they're hot. And hopefully I will see each and every single one of you guys next time with another video. I'm out. Peace.